So we're going to be doing 5 spooky tutorials on how to add that extra spooky edge to your video. We're going to be talking about the Bilbo Jump Scare. What's the Bilbo Jump Scare, you ask? Ha! Have the character Bilbo, he's talking to Frodo, and at one point he actually lurches forward and kind of transforms, and it's very unsettling, and he suddenly kind of comes back to normal. And what they did was they actually created a dummy with very whitened eyes and sharpened teeth, like he was some sort of a monster, and they filmed that dummy and they jump cut to the dummy, and they do like a triple composite between like a digital composite and the dummy and Bilbo himself, and they did a lot of work on that to make some very believable sudden transformation of Bilbo. This is the poor man's Bilbo jump cut, so we're going to do the poor man's version. Alrighty, so we're in Movie Studio 16 Platinum, and you can do this with most versions of Movie Studio that I'm aware of. So you should be able to follow along, even if you've got an older version. What we can do is right-click and delete this, and probably newer versions too. Delete that picture-in-picture track because it's just going to get in our way, and let's get started. We're going to grab your raw footage of your subject to where you're doing the jump scare. So I actually have it right here, and if you arrow through, you'll see. That's where I jump out and attack the camera. So we got some work to do to kind of make that more than just the actor jumping into the camera. So the things that make it scary is the volume. Actually, if you look, it actually gets really quiet right there. And then suddenly, I let it peak. I let it go right to the tippy top and distort a little bit. So there's a bit of a dynamics jump scare. I suddenly fill the frame. It's a suddenness. Even though I kind of announce in the beginning, I say, I'm going to just scare you, and then I do it. So hopefully it didn't give anybody any heart attacks, but explains the effect pretty well. But announcing that you're going to scare somebody is a great way to ruin the effect. So don't do what I did there. So right here, where this effect starts, I want this effect to really start right when I get loud. And so this is the build up right here. You can see in the waveforms, and right here's where I get loud. So I'm going to hit the S key and cut that right there, and I'm going to undo the fades that Vegas creates. And then right here at the end of it, when I start shrinking back, I know in advance that I want to do about 8 frames. So I'm going to zoom in and just use the arrow key to jump 1 frame at a time. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those are the 8 frames I want, and then I'm going to hit the S key again and then undo the audio fades there as well. And then now we've got the main part of the effect selected. One thing I want to do though is I want this to kind of suddenly jump forward. So to do that, I'm going to open the event pan crop. I hit this button right here, it opens this window. And here I want to zoom in a good bit. Okay, if that's happening, if you're getting kind of a effect like this, you need to make sure that your X and Y are selected. And you can always go back to default to get it back to normal. And you want a nice even zoom in there of your effect. So I want that right there. And then here, I'm going to come back to this first one. And I don't want it to be so sudden, because if you look, it's a little too sudden. See? So I want it to be a little more gentle. So first, I'm going to go a frame ahead here. And I'm going to hit S there and get rid of the fades that Vegas creates. And then open the event pan crop on that frame in front of it. And I'm going to do a lesser fade. So just something that's less of a jump. So if you arrow, you can kind of see more of a progression. It's like the camera's jumping towards me, because I have no background, because the background, it really is like similar to the camera moving towards me all of a sudden. And then I'm moving towards the camera. And then here I'm close, and then I've suddenly jumped back away, and that's a little jarring. So what we're going to do is right click this area right here and hit copy. Then we're going to right click this second area and hit paste. event attributes. And when we paste the event attributes, that actually takes the crop that we had there. It'll take all of your effects, so be careful. You might have to do a selective one, which is just under it. But you paste it, and it'll take your event pan crop, and it will put it on this one as well. But we don't want it to end that close. I want it to zoom back out. So if we scroll in and we go to the event pan crop again, you can actually hit this button right here, sync cursor, and you can start at the beginning and you can move to where I kind of want it to hit the camera to hit back normal. So right about there, when I move my arm back, that's where I want it to hit normal again. You can zoom out there or just hit default. And if your cursor's there, it'll create a keyframe. So now you can see it zooms back out there. So that is an animated keyframe where it'll zoom back out nice and slow. Ooh, one thing you can also do to make that smoother is you can right-click your new keyframe you created and hit smooth. That way, it'll kind of do it nice and smoothly. See that? How it kind of zooms back out nice and smooth. So there we go. That's a good sudden jolt forward. That certainly increases the effect of the jump scare. But the next thing, what really makes it the Bilbo effect, is what I'm about to do to my face. So the poor man's Bilbo jump cut is going to just be painting over each frame. So we have 8 frames. That's actually not too difficult to do. We're going to grab those 8 frames that we know we're going to be painting over, that we've selected already. And then we're going to right click, actually not right click, I'm sorry. We're just going to go to project and render as. Now this is different than normal. We're actually going to render as an image sequence. So you go here to image sequence and you're going to select TIFF. You don't want to select anything else but TIFF, because a TIFF is a high resolution, no compression image, and if you're not using a TIFF, then you're going to have some quality loss. And we're going to name this, I'm going to hit browse. Actually, it's going to keep it inside of this stop motion picture sequence there, so that's not a good place for this. I'm just going to leave it inside of this folder here. MS standing for movie studios. And I'm going to name it Bilbo. And hit save. So there we go. Now it's saving it in Bilbo. Oh, Bilbo. Well, whoops. So that is the folder it's going to be in. I know where it's going to be in. And it's going to name these 0000, 0001, 0002, and so on and so forth from your image sequence. So 0 being your first picture. So we're going to get 0 through 7, making 8 pictures total. And we'll hit render. And then we're going to get a folder. If you open that folder up, you'll be able to see here are your 8 pictures. Now here's where it gets a bit tricky. We're going to go into Paintnet and we're going to individually kind of paint over this picture to widen my eyes, dilate my pupils, and to make my teeth more prominent in a very subtle way. The more detail you put into it, the more vicious and scary of a creature you're going to have. But I tried to do something that could be done by anyone with any kind of painting software, whether that be Photoshop, Vegas Effect, Vegas Image, and Paint.net or GIMP. Paint.net is free, which is why I'm using Paint.net right now. So let's jump in. Let me get Vegas pulled back up here. Here's the images. What we want to do is grab the 0 image and drag it over here, and then it's going to say, what would you like to do with this file? And I'm going to say, open the image. And so there we go. There's our first image. And then you can grab the second one. The 0001, that's the second image. Grab that, throw it on there, and then hit Add Layer. And then do it with the next one, Add Layer, and then do it with the next one, Add Layer, Add Layer, Add Layer, I opened it. Add Layer, and then last time, Add Layer. Okay, so now that we've got 8 of these frames all opened up in the same image, we can really start doing some neat things with this. I'm going to uncheck all of these, just a quick thing about Paint.net. This isn't a Paint.net tutorial. Like I said, you can do this in any of the photo editor of your choice. But I do want to say that this selection and deselection is actually what layers, this is layer based, what layer you're ignoring and what layer you're looking at. And whether it's highlighted or not is what layer you're working on. And that's really all you need to know for this. So right now we have no layer selected. We're going to select the background layer, and I'm going to hit this button right here, which is Add New Layer. So however in your editor you need to add a new layer. So here, in this layer 9, I want to make sure that is selected. I want them both checked, but I want my layer 9 selected because I don't want to draw directly on the background. I want to draw with this extra layer here. I'm going to go to my colors. And the first thing I'm going to do is grab, I'm going to open this up, and I'm actually going to grab, I'm going to hit more, and I'm going to grab a gradient, something, a see-through white there. And I'm going to go to my paintbrush and get a little bit bigger of a, well, it's too big, of a paintbrush size. And we're also going to zoom in. Whoa, a little too much there. So once you're zoomed in, you can get something that's a little bit smaller than the area you're trying to coat, just a little bit, and color the white of your eyes whiter, the white of your subject's eyes a little whiter. And I know this isn't super realistic, and that's okay. What I'm trying to do is create something basic that everybody can do without making it something that nobody can do. Now, if you're like, well, what if I love doing image editing and I can actually like turn myself into a monster and make 8 separate really high detailed images of me turning myself into a monster? And the answer for that is that's great. That's exactly what you should do then. Take all the time you want on this. But I'm trying to make something that's going to be approachable for everyone, and everybody's going to be at different skill sets at this, probably above average since you're a video editor, but different skill sets. So really, I'm just coloring my teeth and my eyes a little whiter. Now trust me, this will get better looking. Then we're going to grab a see-through black, and I'm going to just darken my whole eyes. Now, unselect the background layer, and you have like teeth and eyes. Go to Effects, Artistic. Every single one that I know of, every single image editor that I know of has some version of this effect. And you can do oil painting, and that's what I want. And I want it to be kind of coarse, big brush size. What this does is it gives it some texture and flattens out your mistakes and stuff to where you can actually have it fakes your quality of your drawing a little bit for you. And so once that's done, then let's look at it with the background again. See, it's a little bit more, pasteled, a little bit more intentional looking. And so that is, you can see with or without, that kind of definitely looks a bit freakier and a little bit more unsettling. And this isn't the final image you're going to see. We're actually going to composite this image with the other image. But like I said, this is the easiest way to do it. The more detail and freakiness you draw into your image of your subject, the freakier it'll be. This is the minimum, and that's what we're going to focus on teaching. So the next thing's pretty easy. You file, you save. Go ahead and save your project so you have something to work on. The PND for PDN for Paint.net is the Paint.net file. And then you can file, save as, and then save it as another TIFF, and then save it as TIFF1. So I'm going to go new folder, tutorial, Bilbo. I want to know that this is different than the other one I did. And I'm going to name this one tutorial Bilbo. And hit OK. And flatten. And flatten's okay. That just means it's going to get rid of the layers. So now it's actually, after I've saved it, it's opened that up. I'm just going to hit Control Z. So it unopens that up. That's still saved. It just unopens up the new project and brings you back to the project you're originally working in. And then so I'm going to uncheck the background. I'm going to grab layer 9. I'm going to move layer 9 on top of the second picture and then check that. So you can see there's some motion and stuff. This is where it gets awesome. You can either A, redraw everything entirely, or B, just select the different sections, and this works in like all different photo editors. Whoops. If that happens, that what you mean to do is have layer 9 selected, not layer 9 particularly, but have your painting eyes layer selected. I had this layer selected. This layer needs to be selected so that doesn't happen. Grab your selection and then just select the area you want, and then you can just move it to your eyes. There we go. You can even kind of tilt it a little bit if you want to make it match. It's actually, I think, turned out a little bit better than my one that you're going to see in the beginning there. And then I'm going to tilt it down just a little bit. There you go. And so I don't really have to even redraw anything. I can go to the eraser and kind of erase any bleed over. You got to hit enter to get rid of your selection though, so that you can actually affect it. But you can actually kind of erase some bleed over on your eye there if you want. It just depends on how realistic you want this to look. And then there you go. Now you have your second step, and this is of the unsettling subject. And what you do is then you save this as an image, and I'm going to spare you it all because you're going to realize the pattern here. I'm going to save this as a TIFF in the same area, and then so this name this one 2, so that way you can keep them in order. And then boom, boom, boom. You've got 2 of your images, and then you hit Control-Z again to go back to your regular project, and then so on and so forth. We're going to uncheck that, move this above this, check that, and then we can move the eyes, repaint it, whatever we need to do, so that way we can go frame by frame by frame and finish it. And so I'm going to finish this up. All right, so now that we've got all 8 painted, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out of Paint.net and we're going to go back to our familiar stomping grounds of Vegas. So the next step, now that we've got all of our frames painted the way we want them to, we go to Insert and go to Slideshows. Insert Slideshow and then hit Add Pictures. So I'm going to tell you I cheated. Because I've already done this twice, this would be the 3rd time for the Movie Studios tutorial. I'm actually going to grab these photos right here from the previous project, but you'll have seen that already. So these are my 8 finished pictures. I'm going to open those up right there. Then I'm going to go to Settings, and I'm going to go to Start at Cursor, because I want it to start right there where my cursor is. Picture duration, total length. I'm just going to pick something really small. It's difficult to get exactly a frame, so I'm just going to go to 0.9. And that's just because it's a little screwy, how this works exactly. One thing I really hope they do is make it to where I can actually just pick 1 frame per picture. That would be wonderful for animation and claymations and things like that. So we're going to get close to a frame there, and I'm going to have 0 overlap on these effects. So essentially this is a way to make a slideshow. We're hacking this use to drop in our frames all at once without having to do a lot of extra effort of grabbing them all in and shrinking them all down. So make sure Start at Cursor is selected and hit Create. And there we go. We almost have our frames right there, because you can see this was exactly 8 frames, and now it's a little bit more than that. So these aren't lining up. So if you zoom in a little bit, it'll be easier to kind of pull it back till it hits a frame. Shrinking them all up like so. Almost there. One more. See, it was almost a frame. Just a little bit more than the frame. It'd be nice if I could just select 1 frame. There we go. So now these 8 frames are exactly where they need to be. Since I used a different set of pictures from a previous tutorial, I had a different cropping, so I had to fix that, but I'm back, and this is exactly what your project should look like now if you're doing something similar to this. And you'll have this zoom in on more, then the accentuated eyes and teeth, and then it kind of jarts back to nothing. So we're not done yet. We need to actually stair step this with opacity, so how opaque it is, how much we can see through these. And you can notice that if you lower the opacity, you can actually just barely add the effect in there, which is kind of cool. See, there's me with my crazy teeth and eyes. There's me without it. So if I add it just a little bit and then stair step it, it can make it seem a little less sudden. And I want these at here to be just barely opaque, and then stair step back down to less opaque. And we can kind of arrow through and see how that looks. There we go. It's more subtle of a monster change there. So let's watch that. I like that. So that is how to do the Bilbo scare effect. This has actually been kind of a bear of a tutorial to put together, so thank you for sitting through it. We're done with the Halloween ones, and we're moving on to your regularly scheduled programming. So thank you guys for hanging with me, and we'll be have a happy Halloween, and we're almost to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. This has been Adam with Tech Dive AV Club.